Hey guys, it's Doc, and today I figured I'd just do a quick little video on preparing for prospecting and some of the stuff that I do to prepare for my trips to make sure that nothing goes wrong, or that when it goes wrong, I have a way to fix it. So hold on. Hey guys, I'm just going to share some thoughts that I go through when I'm doing a prospecting trip. Every prospecting trip to everybody is important. I understand that. But a lot of times, if I'm planning a trip where I'm going to shoot video and I have made accommodations somewhere and I've got people that are going to meet me there, I've got so much to worry about that I've got to make sure that I don't have little things that are going to shut me down. So let me go through some of the things I do, especially at the beginning of the season, some of the stuff you want to do. I'm going to go over the Highbanker. I'll go over the Raptor Flare, which we're going to be running in next week sometime. I'll go over the engine. I'll go over some of the hose stuff, some of the things that will trip you up, and some good little tips. So first, let me go over the Highbanker with you. Now I'm just sitting in a corner. This is our junk corner of a warehouse. They are actually up front. I got crews up front actually working and shipping out products, so I figured I'd shut the door back here and just grab the Highbanker and show you what I do to get ready. All right, now I've said it 100 times. I repeat myself, or repeat myself, repeat myself. Never take your equipment, especially for the first time or at the beginning of the year, into the field without doing a dry run at home. And what do I mean about a dry run? Let me show you. I've got my unit set up exactly like I'm going to run it. So I've got I'm estimating my angle. I run at about 9 degrees here on the Raptor Flare. This is about where I'll run my header box. So what I'm doing now to save time in the field as well are my legs positioned to where they're almost straight. I like to leave them a little bit forward. So that's what I do, is I set my unit up. I set up the full unit. And when I set up the full unit, I do it like I'm going to run it in the field, so I know that it's all ready. I don't have to go in and adjust these screws on my legs when I get to the field and I don't have a wrench, okay? So as you can see, I've got my unit set up with all the mats inside of it. I've got everything just like I'm ready to hook a hose up to it and ready to run. That's a dry run. That's what I want to see. All right, so let me grab the camera and let me get in close for you for a second. All right, so one thing that I like to do is I always recommend people always have some spare nuts and bolts. And what you can do is, now we send this unit out with just a regular tube, and what you can do is buy these little slip things and put extra nuts and bolts inside this tube. It's a great little trick. So I've got a bunch of extra nuts and bolts inside of here so I don't lose them. The next thing I'm going to do is make sure that all my plumbing is secure. I'm ready to go. I've got my clay claw in here. I know where I'm going to be running, so I only have 2 sides of my header box flares on here, so I can dump on this side. So I'm going to dump on this side. I don't want to have to raise my bucket over this header box flare. So I'll dump in here. Got my clay claw. When you're running, of course, and I'll show you a piece of video, when you're running, you dump your dirt in here, the clay claw holds everything, and then once all your rocks are clean, you lift up your clay claw, and then all your rocks actually come out and discharge down here. So I look at my grizzly bars. Are my grizzly bars all set? Are they lined up? I like to line them up just about with the back, maybe a little short. Are they smooth? If they're not smooth, I'll actually take some fine sandpaper and car wax and wax these grizzly bars. Is my reverse ramp riffle in correctly? Yes, it is. I have everything set up. I have my mats. I have all this stuff here. So this is the normal Raptor Flare. From here all the way up, that's your Raptor Flare. I run my extension in 2 occasions. I run my extension if I have a bunch of superfine gold, like 20, 30 colors a pan, or if I'm going to be running super, super heavy run rates, incremental process. If you haven't watched the incremental processing video, watch the incremental processing video. You'll understand why I use my extension when I'm running with a lot of people and running a lot of buckets. So if I'm running 150 buckets an hour through this unclassified, I'm going to run my extension. Got it? All right, so what I'm trying to get across to you is I want to walk through in my mind, I want to see myself in the field. I actually want to see myself out in the field setting up, carrying the equipment down to the creek, setting up my pump, priming my pump, putting in the intake, laying out the lay flat hose, attaching that to the header box. I want to go through that whole process, and that's what I do before I go out in the field. So, what size hose am I going to be running? Well, the Raptor Flare comes with a 1.5, but I'm going to run a 2-inch semi-trash with a 2-inch lay flat hose. So what do I need? I need to make sure that I have this piece with me. So what I do is I always have one tub. So if I know I need something, I'm going to put it in the tub. If I know that I need gold pans, I'm going to take my gold pans, I'm going to put them in my tub. Same thing, if I need extra tape, I always carry extra tape, I'm going to put that in there. I know I'm going to need lay flat hose, that'll go in here. All those little things will go in this one tub, and that's my sort of my checklist, my dump tub. All right, so I'm going to run 1.5, I'm going to run 2, so this, I've made a little conversion piece that just screws into this, and then my 2-inch lay flat hose can now go into here. It goes to the actual 1.5-inch plumbing. So now, let me show you a little tip on your lay flat hose. Just don't grab your lay flat hose and throw it in here. I always take 2 lay flat hoses in case I spring a leak, in case something's wrong. But let me show you what's wrong with this. And I noticed it when I was checking it. Look, there's no gasket in there. There's no rubber gasket on this end. And if that was an intake, if that was on my intake, that would probably shut me down because I wouldn't be able to hold the seal. So, and you will lose these. So always have a couple extra of these in your truck or in your bag or backpack or whatever. So those little rubber gaskets are really important. Always put some in your truck and keep them there. That's what I recommend. So, again, I'm out in the field. I set up my unit. Everything is all set. I'm going to have this. I have this. So next I go to my lay flat hose. My lay flat hose is going to connect in here. Actually connect it and make sure the threads actually work. Then this end is going to connect to here. It's going to connect to here. Make sure that works. Then I'm going to have my intake. And my intake's going to go here. Everything looks good on my intake. So now I've sort of walked through in my mind, setting up my Highbanker, setting up my pump. I've got my my hoses and my intake and everything all set. So now I feel comfortable. Now when I break down this unit, I'm going to leave it just like this, but I'm going to break it down probably right about here. I'm going to set this upper unit right inside here, and now all I have to do is carry that down to the creek and set it up. I'm all set to go. All right, so let's move to the next step, which is your pump. The one thing you always want to do with your pump is you always want to, if this is at the beginning of the season, the one thing you want to do is you're going to want to remove your spark plug, look at your spark plug, check it, put it back in. But the reason why you remove your spark plug is sometimes you'll have that back pressure buildup. I forget what they call it. You try and pull the pump and it won't move and it's locked up. That's because there's pressure inside that cylinder that's been trapped, and you can't get it to move. That pump won't actually move. You can't even pull it. It locks up. So it's not the engine that's seized up, it's just that pressure buildup within that cylinder. So if it's at the beginning of the year, take your spark plug out, make sure you don't have that pressure buildup, take your pump outside and actually run your pump. Check your gas can. What we like to do is if it's been sitting all year, we put fresh gas in it, we take it outside and we run it. I actually carry 2 pumps with me. That's why, honestly, we buy cheap pumps. These are $250 pumps, and we carry 2. So we have one, and we have a backup. In case this pump totally fails, I have a backup pump. So we'll have 2 pumps with us. We'll have 2 lay flat hoses with us. We'll have spare O-rings. I only have 1 intake, because intakes very seldom go wrong. Gas, make sure you have your gas can. Make sure you have your gas can. So that's the next thing I'm visualizing. I'm visualizing myself filling it up, hooking everything up. Before, I have a pair of boots because I need to put my intake in the water and get wet. So I'm going to have my boots with me. Those are going to go in my tub. Make sure I got my boots. Make sure I got my lay flat hose. That's going to go in here. I'm going to get extra O-rings for that. I'm also going to figure out how many people are with me. Let me explain that. I need to know how many people are going to be up here prospecting with me, and that I need to know because how many shovels do I need? If I'm going to have if I'm going to have, let's say, 6 or 7 people, I know I need probably 4 or 5 shovels at any one time, so I need a lot of shovels. Buckets, how many buckets do I need? Well, if I plan to run 100 buckets an hour of unclassified material, I'm going to need probably 20 buckets at all time up by that dirt where I'm pulling it from. And then I'm going to have buckets that are full around my Highbanker, buckets that are being dumped. So I'll probably need close to 40 buckets if I want to run 100 buckets an hour. Does that make sense? So you always want to have a lot of buckets with you if you're going to fill up buckets. A panning tub. So we use this a lot of times for panning, just these cement tubs, or if we're going to clean up the mats, a lot of times on the wide mats, we use this to clean up our wide mats. So always take a panning tub. The other thing I do with this, which is pretty cool, and let me show you what I do on the pump, is I'll use this to actually cover up my pump. So a lot of times when I'm driving and I don't want my pump to get wet, I'll actually set this over my pump, and this is how I travel. I'll put a bungee cord around it, and this will keep all the rain off my pump, because I don't want my pump to get soaking wet in a thunderstorm. So this is how I actually transport my pump. If I have a second pump, I'll take 2 of these, or I'll take a trash bag and I'll wrap a trash bag around the engine part of this. I really don't care about the pump part. I'll take a trash bag and wrap the engine part in a trash bag and then tie it off at the bottom. I do that all the time too. All right, so again, I'm building that picture in my mind of being out there, setting up the Highbanker, running my pump, priming my pump, filling it up with gas, hooking up the intake, hooking up the lay flat hose. I've gone through that whole process. I feel comfortable with that. I know how many shovels I've got. I know how many buckets I've got. So now I've gone through this whole process, and I feel really comfortable with it. But that's kind of what I do, is make sure you sort of stop and visualize yourself going out to the field and doing all this. Of course, I have to worry about video camera equipment, personnel, all kinds of other stuff too. But I'll have these checklists, and I'll do them in my mind, or else I'll write them down to go over all this. The other thing this year we're going to start doing too is make sure we have a flow pan. So the other thing we'll do this year, we're going to start bringing flow pans with us so we can test and we can scout. So I'll make sure that I have a flow pan. I'll make sure. The nice thing about the flow pan is it breaks down really small, so I'll throw that in here. I'll usually carry 2 of them. One so I can test the material. Always test your material before you run it. And the other one, I'll probably put the solid sides on the flow pan and actually put it at the end of my sluice. I use that not really as a tailing checker for gold, but sometimes I'll get like gems at the end of my Highbanker. I'll have a lot of small gems, and so that creates a fluid bed. So that's where I'll use my flow pan, at the end of my Highbanker. Now, let's talk real quick about the setup of the unit. And one of the reasons why I leave this unit completely set up and just break it in half and put it in my truck so it's ready to run is time. I want to hit that ground and be up and running in 20 to 30 minutes, and that's a full setup for me. So I hit there. 2 people will carry that semi-assembled down to the creek, set it up. I take my pump down, hook my pump up, I do all that stuff, pull it, start it, make sure, tune my system, make sure I'll throw some dirt in, make sure my pitches are right the way that I want them to be. You know, I typically run like a 9 degree up here, maybe a 6 degree here, and maybe an 8 degree on my extension, because it's a lot of mother load mat, so I want it pretty quick. So I'll go ahead and do that test run and set it up. But I care about speed and care about having things ready when I get there. I just don't throw your crap in the truck. Be ready and be prepared. The opposite is true of when I leave. When I leave, I don't really care. I just throw the crap in the truck, because I'll have days afterward to take care of that. So really put your effort into the beginning, your setup part. Really put your effort into having things ready to go as much as possible, so that when you hit that ground, everything's ready. Take it out, set it up. And that's sort of my mindset. That's what I do. You know, I make sure all my batteries are charged for all my video equipment. I got cameras, I got video cameras, I got drone, I got all kinds of stuff. So I got to make sure I have all that. You know, you got to make sure that you got all your buckets and all your shovels and gas for your engines and all that kind of stuff that goes through your head. So anyways, guys, I just wanted to sort of give you sort of what I do and a real good perspective as far as, hey, the day before or 2 days before, get your stuff ready, double check twice, always bring extra stuff. Look for the little things that'll shut you down. Doc, Gold Hog.